Hi to everyone who's just joining us, and you're very welcome to another Totara community session. We're really excited to have you join us today as we explore the Garden Centre Association's journey in transforming employee training for their members. Today, we're going to take a closer look at the challenges the Garden Centre Association faced and how they partnered with Hubken to create a centralised training platform that's been a game changer for their members. So from addressing seasonal staffing issues to improving accessibility, this session will give you an inside look at the platform that they've developed. You're very welcome to ask questions today as we go through the webinar. We'll try and keep it informal, like we will be looking at behind the scene at the platform. So if there's things that you see on the platform you'd like to ask Anthony questions about, you're very welcome to. If we don't know the answer, we can always come back to you as well. So feel free to ask questions. It should just be a friendly group today, so you're very welcome to ask anything that you like. So just as a little bit of an introduction, this session is being recorded today. So if you want to share it with colleagues afterwards, or if you're trying to frantically take notes, don't worry. It's being recorded, so you can watch this again later and you can share it as well. It'll also be available in the Totara community. So if you're watching this on demand later, you're very welcome to ask questions about anything you see today. If you're not already a member of the Totara community, do come and create a free account. You can join at totara.community. There's lots of people using the community, about 5,000 active professionals, mostly working in L&D and HR, trying to solve similar challenges to yourself. We have a lot of resources in the Totara community. We have academy training, and we also have lots of webinars like this one where you can go behind the scenes and platforms. So do come and create an account if you don't already have one. Just a quick word on Totara. Totara is predominantly an LMS. You can learn more at totara.com, but we predominantly people buy Totara through our network of partners, such as Hubken, which are on the call today. So if you do want to have a look at Hubken, you can learn more, and we will talk a little bit about Hubken today as well. So, Anthony, would you mind just introducing yourself and letting us know all about yourself and about your role at the Garden Centre Association?
Yes, of course. So I'm Anthony Snow, instructional designer at the Garden Centre Association. Um, my primary role under that job title is to write and build the content that we host on our learning management system. And a second sort of facet to my job role is the overall site administrator for our site.
Great, thanks, Anthony. And if you could educate us all as to who the Garden Centre Association are or is, and let us know more about what you do there.
Yeah, of course. I'll try and keep it a bit brief, otherwise we'll be here until tomorrow morning. So the Garden Centre Association, or the GCA, as we are referred to, we have our origins in the very roots, pun intended, of the Garden Centre movement, which is surprising to probably to some people, has only been in existence since about the 1960s over here in the UK. Prior to that, if you wanted to buy plants for your garden, you would go to a nursery. All
Mhm.
stock was grown in what was called the open field system. So if you wanted to buy a rose, someone would literally grab a shovel, walk up a field, dig the rose up, wrap the roots, and then you would take that home with you. And then there was a revolution that started in the States, in America, where someone came up with the idea that if you grew plants in pots, you could sell them and grow them all year round. Um, and there were a small handful of nurserymen in the UK that picked up on this idea. They trialed it in the UK, and as a result of that, in the 1960s, the garden centre, as we now know it in the UK, became in existence. On the back of that, the Garden Centre Association was formed in 1966 to basically act as a forum for these garden centre members and a catalyst to improve and create communication between garden retailers, i.e. the garden centres, and the supplier communities, namely the people that supply products to these garden centres, whether that's nurseries that are growing the stock or weed killer providers or plant food providers and manufacturers, etc.
Great, thanks, Anthony. I like the idea of just going down the road and picking up a rose, though. That sounds like a cheaper option.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, this was, bearing in mind, this was in the days way before online shopping. I believe that you could also purchase plants via mail order. I'm not sure they would have struggled with the issues that we have with the likes of Every and etc. these days. Yes, so it's a fascinating story, really, and sort of it is sort of one that sort of when we sort of tell it to people that aren't aware of it. Sort of, it is quite surprising to know that garden centres in the UK have only been in existence since the 1960s.
Yeah, that's great. And if we think sort of as an L&D team, what are some of the challenges that you had when you first started the project?
Obviously, I just said that sort of by being able to grow and sell plants in pots, you can make them readily available throughout the year. But horticulture is still very much a seasonal industry. So many of our garden centres, they still have a core set of employees that are employed throughout the year, but they still get those bottlenecks during the busier traditional sort of seasons as dictated by Mother Nature. So the sort of the months of March to June are traditionally busy for plants, as is autumn, etc., for the likes of roses and shrubs, etc. So a lot of the garden centres, they'll recruit seasonal staff or temporary staff to come in to sort of bolster the numbers during those periods to deal with the demand and the increase in sales. But one of the challenges that they have is that because these temporary members of staff are only employed for a short period of time, they're left with two options. Do they invest the time and the money to train or to give them adequate training to fulfill their job? Or, which they more often end up doing, do they just put them out onto the shop floor on the front line and just hope that they can sort of pick up the ropes from a more sort of experienced colleague? Um, so this was a big problem for garden centres. Those that could sort of invest the time and the money to train their staff, it was very much on a face-to-face basis, which comes at a cost, as everyone can probably appreciate. One of the benefits of online training is it's cost effective and it's time efficient. Um, so this was face-to-face training obviously created several problems for our members. Back in 2012, the idea was put together that we could potentially bring training into a standardized system that was available online that would make courses and education not only easily accessible but more digestible. So rather than a 2 to 3 day course, we were looking at a 20 to 30-minute course. Um, Primarily, the intended audience was these inexperienced staffs because we actually, we identified that this was a big training gap within our members. So the idea was initially was to just sort of provide these temporary staff with a very basic, fundamental entry level knowledge on the products and services that they sell, hoping that that would not only give them the confidence to talk to their customers, but like any other retail business, customer service is first and foremost. So if they can sort of project the impression or project the fact that they do have knowledgeable staff, then they're obviously going to retain their customer base as well.
Yeah, so I think we talked to Anthony just before we did this webinar. In fact, I used to work at a garden center from the ages of like 16 to 19, and one of the big things there was that yeah, there was a lot of young staff as well. So people that were going to university, just because of the like you said, the seasonal nature of the work as well. So is that something that is general, just that you have seasonal staff, people that are young, inexperienced in the industry as well, and they need to get up to skilled up as quickly as possible?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And of course, that seasonality, it has an impact. It's almost role reversal. So I know sort of between the months of March and June, the garden centres are going to be busy, weather permitting. So there's going to be less usage on the site because they are too busy to focus on their training. And then when you get to June and we have the sort of the lull before we sort of ramp up again for autumn, then the level of activity increases as they sort of prepare. I mean, I'll go into it a little bit more, but sort of we've got a broad course catalogue that covers a variety of topics and subjects. So there is something for everyone at a particular time of year.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Anthony. And just briefly, why did you decide to use Tota as your main platform? And also, why did you decide to partner with Hubken as your provider?
Uh, I mean, the answer to the Totara question was quite simple, really. We've got multiple members that are all using our system. So one of the big draws for us was utilizing the multi-tenancy plugin, which provided us with a system that we were able to sort of segregate each of our members' data. To give each member organization their own essentially unique learning experience. Um, that was a big sort of pull for us. The separate environments, it just works so well. We've got 12,500 registered users on our site. So being able to segregate them is essential to make sure that sort of other tenants, as we call them, don't see the data relating to other tenants.
Thanks, Anthony. And we'll have a little look at that in a minute or two and talk a bit
Yeah.
more about that. But also, why did you decide to partner with Hubkin?
Again, I mean, we've only been partnering with Hubken for about 2.5 years. So when we went live with Grow, we were with another Totara partner. Um, the site evolved over time, but we had an awful lot of customizations that were put onto the site, which became a bit of a burden for us and for the partner, purely because from a maintenance perspective. It got to a point where sort of we had so many customizations, there were only one or two members of staff within the support team that were able to help with any issues because it was only those two that sort of fully understood what customizations we had. Um, we explored the possibility of upgrading the site, but it would have come at a significant cost to ensure that it remained functional. So we started looking around, to be perfectly honest, spoke to a couple of other potential partners, but we chose Hubken, sorry. Not only were they competitively priced, but it was clear from the outset that they would just be a great fit for us. They took the time to understand the customizations that we had on our site, and provided me with the help that I needed, and guidance, etc., on how our site could still function to the levels that we were expecting, but without those customizations. So, the project team and the development team sort of really took that on board and they worked very, very closely with us. So,
Great, thanks, Anthony. So Adam, would you mind just giving us
yes.
a 1 minute introduction to Hubkin, and then we will take a look at the platform behind the scenes and sort of log into the Grow system. I'm going to move the slide.
Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, I'm Adam. I'm a new face over at Hubken. So, just a quick hello to any of our clients who are on today's webinar and also to everybody else who has kindly joined us today. A quick overview of Hubken and what we do. So, we've been in the learning industry for 20 years now and have been a partner of Totra since 2015. We're a Platinum Alliance partner, so we're experts when it comes to solutions that enhance training, compliance, onboarding, or whatever use cases you can come up with for using Totra. Our range of services include consultations, migrations, implementations, ongoing support. We do a bit of platform optimization and also bespoke content. So again, we've kind of got all bases covered when it comes to your Totra services. We are sector agnostic, but we do have extensive experience in implementing Totra across the corporate, healthcare, education, government, and not-for-profit sectors. But I think what Anthony's touched on there, I think what we like to think, what really sets us apart is our kind of people-first approach. We really try and work with our clients to deliver solutions that not only get the most out of Totra, but also, kind of deliver exceptional results. And one of those success stories is the Garden Centre Association, the relationship we've built with Anthony. So yeah, just really looking forward to hearing more in today's webinar. And I will stop talking and hand you back over so we can get into it.
Thanks,
Thanks.
thanks, Adam. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at some of the different features, and then we're going to go behind the scenes and look at the platform. So Anthony, I don't know if you could give us a bit of a sort of overview of some of the main features. And also the first one here we're talking about is multi-tenancy. You touched on it before a little bit about what that meant and why you needed that. But if you could sort of explain in a nutshell, what does the multi-tenancy feature give you and how do you apply that to your system for your different members?
So multi-tenancy, it does, as it says on the screen there, it gives each of our members their individual training space. It allows them to sort of personalize the user experience depending on their brand, for example. It's sort of something that quite a few of our members have utilized. They're able to sort of customize it to make it more in keeping with their own sort of personal brand or their own company brand, etc. As I said before, it helps administrators because they are literally only dealing with their own tenancy. So within their own tenancy, they would have their own users. Um, the multi-tenancy allows us to provide courses to individual members. So quite a few of our members have sort of taken the whole online training revolution on board and sort of not only content with the courses that I'm building and launching onto Grow. They're taking their induction program for new starters, which ordinarily would have been a 50 slide PowerPoint presentation, and they're having that converted into an e-learning course, and they're now putting that onto Grow as well. So it kind of creates a sort of a one-stop shop for all of their training needs. So the multi-tenancy, it works brilliantly for us in the way that, as I said, it sort of segregates the users, it segregates the reporting, and it gives users a sort of a more personalized experience depending on their organization's brand, etc.
Yeah, that's great. And also, I think we talked about it outside of the webinar, but you have sort of access as a site admin to everything, but then you'll have different admins who can access just their tenant as well. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So I am the site administrator. So I'm able to sort of oversee absolutely everything. But sort of as you can imagine, with 12,500 registered users at the moment, and it's increasing on a sort of a monthly basis, it's just too much for one. So each tenant does have what we call a tenant domain manager, and they have a tenant user manager. 9 times out of 10, I mean, they're two separate roles within the system, but 9 times out of 10, it's the same user account that is assigned to both roles. And it gives the tenants flexibility with regards to adding their own users, creating the accounts, managing those accounts with regards to sort of changing personal details, deleting accounts, suspending accounts. It also enables them to run their own reporting rather than it happening at a site-wide. From a site-wide perspective, it allows the tenant admin to run it for their individual organization.
Great, thanks, Anthony. So we've got a few more things on the slide here, but rather than us talking through them on here, should we jump into the platform and have a little look at some of these different
Yeah,
aspects?
of
So
course. Yeah.
that'd be great. So we'll try and do a seamless transition now where I stop sharing and I ask you to share and see what happens.
Okay, let's have a look. Wasn't quite seamless.
Well, it was close enough. There we go. That was pretty seamless. There we go. It's worked well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So yeah, so this is the login screen for our site, which didn't touch on earlier. So we've called it GROW, which is an acronym for Garden Retail Online Workshops, which fits quite well. I didn't mention it before actually, but one of the other challenges that our members face is with seasonal staff. Not every single member of staff that they employ has English as their first language. So this was something else that sort of drew us towards Totara in the first place, was the fact that you were able to install different language packs, which allows a learner to sort of customize the look and feel. So from the login screen, we've got a little icon just up here, and from here, default is English for this particular user, but I can change it to Polish, and it will just update the relevant content. I should add as a caveat that sort of any customized text labels or menu items, or if you put any text to within an HTML block, Totoro won't translate that. That needs to be done separately. So a user can choose which language they want to sort of view the system in at login. They can do that actually via their profile as well throughout any session. And conversely, a tenant administrator can actually update their language preference on their profile, which means then that every time this user logs on, they will automatically, or the system will automatically default to their preferred language. So unfortunately, my Romanian isn't very good, so I'm just going to put it back to English, and then I can just sign in. So this is the main dashboard, as you can see, and then sort of just touching on sort of the customizations within the look and feel. So sort of the colors on the menus, etc. They've all been updated to sort of fit in with our brand here. Every tenant within their dashboard has their company logo on the top, just to make sure that they don't forget who they work for. And we sort of try to, when designing this, try to make it sort of as accessible in as fewer clicks as possible. I think that's sort of probably one of the key things for anything that's system based. I mean, I don't know, plenty of people have probably experienced it with websites when you've got to click through several menus just to get to a particular page. It can get frustrating. So again, one of the things that we like about this site and our learners like about the site is just how intuitive it is. I mean, I've put some help documents up here, but sort of most users are able to sort of navigate their way through it and quite easily, really, without sort of any hand holding. So on this dashboard here, we've got utilizing several blocks. So tips and tricks over here on the left, that's a random glossary. So we've got some entries in here. So at the moment, we've got birds and wildlife, some tips and tricks for birds and wildlife. And then if I refresh the home page, it should change. So now we've gone over to grass mowings. So this is just, as I say, it's just a random glossary. So it will display a new entry every time the learner either refreshes the screen or comes back to the home page. As I said before, the logo and the welcome text, that's just a box standard HTML block, just with an image attached and some text. And then we've got my course completions here, which is actually segregated. It's two separate blocks that are kind of working as one. This first block here is a report graph. And because it's a report graph, you can actually, when setting it up, you can stipulate which report, either embedded or purpose-built or user-built report that it pulls the data from. In this case, we are using a report called My Course Completions. So you can see from here, the user's got an instant snapshot that they are 60% through the courses that they have enrolled on or need to complete, and 2 of those are in progress, or 33%. We also give them this here, the table here, that's a report table block. And again, it gives them an overview of the status, the date that they enrolled on the course, the date that they completed on the course or completed the course. And the great thing about this as well is sort of being able to customize the colors and the look and feel of it. You can quite easily distinguish or help the learner to distinguish which elements are clickable and which they can't, or which aren't. So for example, the enrolled dates and the completed dates aren't clickable, but the course names are. So if I was to click on a course name, that would take me directly to the course page.
Yeah, it's interesting on the platform as well. It's almost like it's like very deliberately simple in a way, isn't it, Anthony? It's like it's very hard to get lost or confused. You're not going to go off in too many different directions from the homepage here. It's sort of
No, exactly. I mean, there's a saying, isn't there? Less is more. If you sort of try and sort of fill the dashboard up with too much stuff, it can quite easily sort of get diluted. So we sort of like, from talking to various learners from different tenants, we sort of quite we were able to establish sort of what things they actually wanted to get from the first screen. I mean, obviously, bearing in mind, this is the first screen that any learner sees when they log in. So it's quite important to give them as much information as they possibly want. I mean, from a learner's perspective, all they're going to want to do is find a course and complete it. And, you know, that's basically their life cycle when using the system. We've also got current learning up here, which is coincidentally called the current learning block. So this basically just provides the learner with, again, a snapshot of the learning that they still need to complete. So this will be a course that they have enrolled on, either self-enrolled or they have been assigned it via a program or a certification. And this will appear here. It's easily identifiable from the icon. So you can see here that allergen awareness is a course. And then the GCA induction here is a program. So that is a collection of courses that this learner is required to complete. It kind of acts as a training plan for them. As I said at the start, we've got 96 courses within the catalogue, and by and large, every learner is able to enroll on and complete any course that they see fit. But there are some tenants that sort of have taken that a little bit further and sort of said, we're happy for you to sort of cross-train. It's beneficial to the business that if you work in one department and you complete a course that relates to a different department, there's absolutely no harm in doing that cross-training because it's a benefit to us as well. But there are certain elements, and a lot of our tenants have sort of created programs where they've batch together different courses depending on the topic. So they might have a program for outdoor plants, another program for sundries, such as weed killers and plant foods, etc. So they can basically dictate to their learners what courses they would like them to complete as a priority. And the great thing as well with this current learning block is that this GCA induction, it contains 2 courses. And you've got a little drop down arrow here, and I can see here that I've completed 50% of this induction program, but I do still need to complete poisonous plants. So once that poisonous plants course has been completed, the program's complete, and then GCA induction will then come away from my current learning block. So that's a really useful tool because it does give, certainly when you're using programs and certifications, it gives the learners a really quick sort of snapshot and ability to access those courses that they are required to complete as a priority. And again, similar to the My Course Completions block, the course name is actually clickable. So I can click on that rather than having to go through, find a course, etc., etc.
That's great. And in the poisonous plants one as well, the program, it's noticeable that the main course that you have, you've actually chosen just to put a SCORM file in that the learner would take as well, and that would be the whole course there. Was that right?
Yes, yeah. The majority of the courses, they are just a single SCORM file or a SCORM activity, which are loaded onto each of the individual course pages. I can just sort of quickly in fact, if I come down to here and if I go to DSE and homeworking. So again, I mean, the great thing with the course pages is it allows you to sort of segregate the data or the activities, which is really useful because it then gives you as an administrator the ability to hide certain elements up to a certain point. So for example, this certificate activity that sits within this topic, but that certificate activity is hidden from the user until they've met the specified criteria required to be marked as complete for the course. And you could also utilize that further on certain courses where you might have additional material that you want to make available to the learner, but only once they've completed the course. So you could add that to a whole separate topic and then hide the entire topic within the course page until, again, certain criteria has been met.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's the idea of an orphaned activity, isn't it, Anthony? And
Yes, yeah.
we did
Yeah,
run
so
a
you'd sort of create the course page or the course. So these courses, they use the topics format. I believe there's different formats that you can use for an e-learning course. I use the topics format. So topic 1 will be sort of this section here, and then topic 2 would be the topic that contains the actual physical SCORM file, and then I would orphan off topic 2. So the learner would actually only see topic 1 when they hit the screen.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, we ran a webinar not very long, well, actually, probably about a year or two now, about orphaned activities in the past, and I'll link that with this webinar. But yeah, the idea that you can just show learners something once they've completed another activity is quite a nice option to have. And like I say, here it's being used in the sense that once you've completed the course, then you get your certificate, which shows up. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Another question, Anthony, would be on the reporting, because I imagine for tenants, people will want to see different things about how their learners are doing. So what types of reports do you make available to the tenants, and how's that controlled?
I mean, that's the great thing as well that we like about the system as well, is that sort of from the offset, you get a series of embedded reports. So these are reports that come with Totara fresh out the box, so to speak. But there is also a really good sort of report builder in there. So sometimes sort of where we've got these standard reports that we've created for all of our tenants, sometimes a tenant admin will come to me and they've got specific requirements that they want from a report. So using a report builder, 9 times out of 10, you can actually go in and you can create a customized report for them. And again, the way that these the reports are set up, you're able to sort of tell the system that actually, there are restrictions in place, in the sense that because we're using the multi-tenancy, we don't want the administrator from Garden Centre A to be able to run completion data for any learners from Garden Centre B, for example. So using the global restrictions, we're able to sort of stipulate which audiences are able to see the data for a particular set of learners. And again, that was a really big pull for us. That sort of ties in really well with the multi-tenancy plugin.
Great, thanks, Anthony. And was there anything else you wanted to share on the platform today?
Yeah, I mean, the actual course catalog itself. I should add as well that sort of the menu across the top here is completely customizable. So this is a customized version. In the past, we've had sort of all of these entries that are sort of in these drop-down menus. We actually had them across the top of the page, and it looked quite congested. So again, really, really quick and simple to do via the quick access menu. You're able to sort of manipulate those menu items. You can reshuffle them, you can rename them, etc., etc. And again, sort of just touching on with the language packs, for example, if I was to change the language, actually, if I was to change the language, then because these elements here are customized text labels, the system wouldn't pick it up and translate that for me. So again, a slight limitation, but it's something that can be lived with. What we've done for our sort of non-English speaking learners, Google Translate, if I could put a plug in there. I'm not affiliated with Google at all, but we're able to sort of translate the help document, so it gives them a bit more of an idea of, at least if they can't actually physically read the label on screen, they can refer to the user guide and they can reference that back that way. But yeah, I mean, the menu structure is incredibly simple to sort of manage and manipulate. Again, sort of heralding back to the whole, making the user experience as easy and as painless as possible. So everything has sort of been pigeonholed, so to speak. So if you want to find a course, you can browse by category, you can search for a course, or you can access the course catalog. And then sort of from coming into here, those 3 options that were available in this flyout menu are now replicated across the top here. So it just gives them one less click if they wanted to navigate away from a different page. The course catalog, I absolutely love it. I love the sort of the visual representation of what courses are available, rather than just a bulk standard list of course titles. We've got different images. By default, the course catalog it will display absolutely everything that is available to that particular tenant. But we've got filters here as well, so I can filter by certifications, and then that would just bring up the one certification that this learner's already completed 100% for. I can close that and bring up the whole catalog again. And then I can click on programs. So again, we've got a representation here of the GCA induction that was on the course progress block on the homepage. And I'm still 50% through that. Or we can bring the whole course catalogue up, and everything's clearly labelled. So you can see here that the GCA induction falls under programs, GCA compliance comes under certifications, and then everything else within the catalogue is a course with a progress bar. So they can view the entire course catalogue and they can instantly see which courses they have and haven't completed, which is a big plus. I did speak earlier about sort of some tenants stipulating that certain courses have to be completed first before, depending on their job role, before they sort of move on to other stuff. But you'll be amazed at sort of how having a visual representation of what courses have been completed and are still to be completed. The level of competition that creates amongst learners is phenomenal. The amount of learners that we've got that have done all 96 of our courses, and I'm sure only sort of 40% of those are probably relevant to their job role. But it's indicative of just sort of how easy they find the system to use and how much they enjoy using it.
Great, thanks, Anthony. It's a really good whirlwind tour there. And obviously, one of the big things, like we mentioned before, is the multi-tenanted aspect of the platform. Roughly, how many tenants do you have set up on the platform, Anthony?
So currently at the moment we've got 49 tenants. They represent, so some of those are just what we call single site organizations. So it's one tenant, one garden centre. We do have other tenants that are multi-site. One tenant's got, I think, 24 garden centres within their organisation. So all 24 of their garden centre employees, all employees from their 24 garden centres are using the system.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is just a bit of a snapshot of the whole platform, and the rest of it is all linked to those individual garden centres or organizations that have several garden centres. So yeah, we just had a quick look behind the scenes here, but yeah, there's a much bigger thing happening sort of behind the scenes, isn't there, really, with the whole platform?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Sort of there's so much sort of going on at the moment. I mean, it's really good to see that sort of many of our members are utilising rather than just having a bog standard course catalogue. They are implementing the programs. They are implementing certifications, which work in a similar way, but to a regular program in the sense that it gives a learner a specific training path. But the great thing with certifications is that it allows people to recertify or to retake courses periodically, which is essential in probably any industry, but certainly with ours, sort of with our cafe, bars and restaurants, the food hygiene and allergen awareness courses. Your local environmental health officer will stipulate that training needs to be recompleted every 12 months, for example. And through certification programs, our tenants are able to sort of set up that certification and the system does everything for them. They don't need to sort of trawl through countless training records just to, evaluate which learners need to complete or need to retake allergen awareness at a given time because it's all accessible from the system.
Great, thanks, Anthony. And maybe should we talk about some of the results now, some of the things that the platform
Yeah,
achieved with the platform? So if I try and share my screen again.
I'll stop sharing.
And hopefully that has shown the right screen. So yeah, so I wonder if you could just talk us through some of the results that you've had as a result of the platform.
Yeah, I mean, sort of when we first sort of introduced the concept of sort of launching an online training platform, even before the system was built, we had sort of 10 or 15 of our members basically agreed that they would join this revolution, so to speak, just purely on the concept, which I think kind of it delivers a strong message and reinforces the fact that garden centres or our members were very keen to sort of readdress the way that they train their staff. To sort of sign up to to something that doesn't even exist yet is, it's a huge leap of faith. And, I'm pleased to say that sort of those 10 to 15 that signed up originally, we've still got 9 of them that are still using the system sort of 12, 13 years later, which is sort of testament to the value that they get from it. We've got, as the slide says, there's sort of 12,500 active accounts on the system. We've grown our users with regards to the number of tenants to almost 500% over the last sort of 12 years. And that figure sort of continues to grow, pardon the pun. It's really hard not to say that word when you're talking about progress. So yeah, to give you sort of a quick snapshot, sort of in the past 12 months, for example, the sort of the figures that we've had, 47% of those 12,500 registered have signed on just in the last 12 months, which doesn't seem a lot, but bearing in mind that the majority of those 12,500 are seasonal staff that sort of are only in the centre for 3 months at a time. But impressively, sort of within those 12 months, nearly 40,000 course completions have been recorded in the last 12 months across the various the entire course catalogue. 42% of those, unsurprisingly, was compliance related, so health and safety, food safety, etc. 29% of those were for customer service, which again, sort of considering it's a retail business and customer service is a key point for certain departments such as till operators, etc. 22% of those were for horticulture, and then there was 7% of those course completions came from business operations. So, as I'm sure it's probably the same for any industry, retail crime is on the up in the UK. So to sort of help our members to combat that, we've got a couple of courses on in-store security, which sort of tackles the issue of shoplifting. And we've also got till security, which sort of tackles like change scams and accepting fraudulent notes, etc.
Great. I was looking for the unmute button there. Great. So let's move a little bit into the question section because we're starting to get some questions coming in.
Okay.
And one of the questions actually Adam just reminded me of as well was the fact that as a professional body, you'll be releasing new courses all the time, I assume. And how do you let other different garden centers know there's new training available, there's new things available to them on the platform?
Several ways, really. Obviously, sort of as a trade association, we are sort of member focused, but we do employ the services of a PR agency. So any new developments that sort of happen on Grow, whether this is primarily it's sort of if new content is being launched, we'll do a press release. We'll use our Facebook page, LinkedIn, to promote this. Just trying to sort of spread the word as much as possible. As I said, the PR team will do a press release, which will go to all the relevant sort of publications within our industry. So not only is it then available online, but it will also go into print as well.
Great, thanks, Anthony. Christine's asking a question as well, like how do members exchange their experiences and thoughts? Is this moderated, facilitated on site or online, or is it not a facilitated exchange? Yes, I wonder I wonder maybe that's a point about feedback, maybe to you, or I'm not sure actually. How do you
Yeah,
view that?
it's obviously because sort of one of the things that we're keen to sort of stress to our members is that essentially we are just providing them with a vehicle to train their staff. We don't want them we don't want our members to feel that sort of this is something that the GCA have created. These are the courses that we're going to say that you're doing, etc. We want the system to work for our members. We want it to be a collaboration. So to help with that collaboration, we used to use a forum on Google Exchange. We've subsequently moved over to another platform, which is an online forum that all of our tenant administrators are members of. And we use that as sort of a sounding board. I also use that to communicate to our members I also communicate that to our members if a new course is available, if we have to take the site down for an upgrade or some routine maintenance. But the great thing is that they use that as a community forum as well. So if someone's got a question about how to do a certain thing, rather than constantly coming back to me, they'll actually ask the community to see if there's another tenant administrator that can help them. Which has been invaluable at times because it does sort of, it takes the burden off me being sort of the first line of support for 12,500 people.
Sounds like a good role, Anthony. Another question we have is, can homepages and dashboards look different for each user? For example, different learners versus instructors or admins?
We don't utilize it. I believe though that it is something that can be done. That's
So
probably a you question, Matt.
yeah, so Trina would say yes, 100%. So homepages and dashboards can look very different for each user. So not just from learner to instructor to admin, but for roles as well. So for example, if you have a manager in the system who needs to see some content and an employee who needs something completely different, but also for positions. So for example, let's say you have cleaners who need to just see one set of courses, then you have I don't know, engineers, and you see a completely different set of courses. You can completely customize the way that that experience feels for roles as well as the actual roles of the users in the system. So, like you say, learners, instructors, admins. So, yes, you can definitely customize all those elements. However, Anthony's taken an approach of it's mostly it's learner orientated, isn't it? In the sense that like here it's set up so that the learner experience is very simple. Like you come in, you know exactly where you have to go. You've got different options to get to those programs, to those courses. You can't really go wrong on the platform the way you've set it up, Anthony, can you? It's just you go in, you find your course, and you get on with it.
Well, never say never. Um,
Well,
but again, though, I mean, the beauty is the simplicity of it, and it's not just from the user's experience. It's across the board. Sort of, the tenant administrators, they find it incredibly simple and intuitive to sort of do the back end side of it. Obviously, we touched during the demonstration on the user experience, which is incredibly sort of simple and sort of intuitive. Um, but sort of the back end of it as well, the administration side, not just from a tenant admin side, when it comes to adding users, etc. But from my perspective as a site administrator, sort of administering absolutely everything if I sort of see fit, is it's not onerous or anything like that. It is incredibly intuitive.
great, thanks, Anthony. I don't think we have any more final questions. If anyone does have any final questions, feel free to put them in there. But I would just say thanks so much, Anthony and Adam, for taking us behind the scenes today and letting us see your platform.
You're welcome.
Like I say, I know we've only just seen a snapshot of it, but it's great to see that and just to see some of the things that you're working on there. And great to hear about your success as well. That it's going well. And
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so what is there anything next for the Garden Centre Association as well, or just keep on keeping on?
Just keep on keeping on. We've had discussions, believe it or not. So the Garden Centre Association actually has international cousins. So there is essentially a Garden Centre Association in Italy, in Spain, in Canada, South Africa, etc. Collectively, sort of, we are all members of the International Garden Centre Association, and we did actually manage to get some interest from our Canadian counterparts who were looking to potentially sort of bring Grow or a portion of Grow over to Canada for their members to access. Um, they sort of conversations were had. Unfortunately, this time the time wasn't right for them, but hopefully, sort of, we could pick up those conversations later. So, the scope to again being web based as well. It's accessible from anywhere. So, there is the potential, providing the course content is correct and relevant for that international market. The possibilities are endless.
Thanks, Anthony. So what you're basically saying is world domination is the next
Yeah,
step.
definitely.
Okay.
This time next year.
All right. So thanks very much for your time today, Anthony. And thanks everyone
You're
for
welcome. Thanks,
joining us
everyone.
today. And yeah, we'll close there. But if you do have questions, if you're watching the recording, feel free to post those in the community as well. But thanks very much, Anthony. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Great to
guys.
see you guys.
See you
Thank
all.
you.